Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Today I want to have a look at this notion of unfair discrimination and then discrimination in general. Also, in addition, I want to look at this idea of generalizations, stereotyping, etc. And why I want to talk about this is because basically we have come to a point, in academia where we have decided that all these things are bad, all of the above: discrimination, stereotyping, generalizations. And I think we have arrived at that place by and large because we come from a history of racism, uh, classism, white supremacy, etc. And we have sort of identified a whole host of negative attitudes and negative phenomena related to these notions, these words, and these attitudes. So, but what I want to basically highlight is that racism and white supremacy, classism, and all these types of things are examples of negative discrimination, or what you might call, unfair discrimination. But discrimination itself, يعني, is not bad. So too, stereotyping itself is not necessarily bad. Neither is generalizations. Okay, so I want to sort of go into this because I noticed that in a lot of debates out there, when people try to make sort of arguments, especially ones that relate to culture and society, we find there's often an objection whereby the opponent, or the one debating, would say that, look, that is a generalization, or you are discriminating against a certain group of people, etc. Now, what I basically want to show and demonstrate here in this video is that discrimination is actually a necessary function of reasoning, okay? The human capacity to reason, okay? It is because of discrimination that we have a vocabulary, a language, and we have the ability to communicate because of discrimination. Okay, now pause there for a minute. And what do I mean by this? Okay, simply the rational function to distinguish between one thing and another thing. When we, for example, say that we call something an apple, okay, we have named it thus because it has specific characteristics, and we distinguish it from another thing, maybe an orange, which has different characteristics. When we call both apples and oranges and bananas, etc., fruit collectively, because they share certain common characteristics which allows them to be categorized as a set of fruit with the variables that they hold. All that is a function of discrimination, because we can discriminate, hence we were able to do that. It's a function of reasoning to discriminate. And so what happens as a result of this anti-discrimination type of uh, intellectualism or non-intellectualism, I'd call it, we end up in a place where nobody is allowed to make any argument whatsoever. Because the minute you start making an argument, you are discriminating and someone will cry foul. Okay? How dare he say that? How dare he say this? It's Islamophobic. How dare he say that? It's homophobic. How dare he say that? It's uh, uh, gender bias, etc., etc., etc. And then in the end, no one is allowed to say anything or make any argument because we have so many woes, around what is politically correct, which is a lot of bullshit, basically, because either the argument stands or it doesn't stand, okay? This whole culture of outrage, constant outrage, someone has to be upset and offended around each and every turn, I mean, that, it's, uh, what is it, a woman's club, The thing is, we need to be able to have these discussions without people getting offended needlessly when someone is trying to prove a point. And so I'm going to give an example here about generalizations and stereotyping. Now, as human beings, the general experience in the world, in jungles, is that lions are dangerous. Okay. Now, that's a generalization. Okay. We could be 95% sure that if a lion enters the vicinity where you are as a human being, that you might be attacked and killed. There's a strong likelihood. Okay. But let's say there's a lion. His name is Noddy, and Noddy is a tamed lion. He has human owners or humans that raised him, and he's a tamed lion. And he comes into the vicinity of a very frightened human being who then picks up a rifle and shoots him. Right? Natural reaction, right? Lion, danger, defend yourself. Okay? Well, that's unfair discrimination. Because Noddy is a tamed lion. Noddy is a circus lion. Noddy is not a lion that has ever attacked or is inclined to attack a human being. Because he has human parents, in his upbringing or whatever. So anyway, the point is that's unfair discrimination. It's a generalization, it's a stereotype that poor Noddy fell prey to, basically. So the point of it is that we have generalizations and stereotypes for a reason. The reason is that human beings have a common experience, and their common experience with other human beings creates certain shortcuts within their minds. So you have a shortcut within your mind which alerts you to the very possibility that there could be danger. You have shortcuts in your mind which are part of basically your survival mechanism as a human being. And so these shortcuts are not there for nothing. Okay, they're there for a reason. They're there because survival instincts are part of what kept us alive this long, why our species are still around. So anyway, the point is that I'm making is that not all discrimination and generalizations and even stereotypes are negative. And to take the position where you get offended immediately when someone expresses an idea that falls within this category of generalization, or falls within this idea in a certain stereotype, instead of asking why we have these stereotypes, Instead of asking what is the common human experience that has brought about these stereotypes and is it justified, our expression is outrage. We say, no, you are generalizing. No, that's a stereotype. No, you are racist. No, you are. I mean, the thing is, societies has for centuries operated on group identity, classism, tribalism, etc., and all the other isms that there are out there. And they're formed around common ground, whatever the common grounds are that they found necessary in order for them to stick together and form communities, etc. And sometimes these common grounds were ethnic, okay? Sometimes in plural societies, these common grounds are racial, right? If you get a whole bunch of black kids, for example, in a predominantly white school, decide that they are going to hang out together and stick together because they are all black, right? Would you say that they are being racist or prejudiced against white people because they're choosing only to hang out with black people? Or is that a natural instinct for people to form a sense of community or a sense of togetherness based on common ground? Ask yourself that question. And is that wrong? Okay, I mean, I don't have the solution for you, but I'm saying that let's understand it. Let's understand people's need to congregate around common factors or common ground, whether it be ethnic, racial, etc., and therefore to form a common culture. And when you form a common culture and people call you out on it, okay, then why should it be racist? I'll give you an example, okay? Most of the best rappers, okay, in the United States are black, right? Is that a racist statement to make? Or is that just an observation? Okay? What in black culture, black American culture, has evolved rap music as a viable, popular, and a viable, well, I said viable, but a kind of music that we all, or many of us, enjoy, you know? What unique about African American culture has brought about certain genres in music, jazz, for example, okay? Is it racist to point that out? Okay? Is it stereotyping? Because maybe there's one or two white rappers. So is it stereotyping? You know? The point is, these are realities in the societies and we come from, and we should be allowed to call it out, and we should be allowed to call out things the way we see it, without regard for political correctness. And there is such a thing as positive discrimination, you know. And even if at times our discrimination appears to be negative, racial, classist, etc., I believe in the free engagement of ideas and that people should be allowed to call it as they see it. And by calling it as they see it, if indeed there is an element of unfair discrimination or bias, extreme prejudice and bias, you know, it enables others to call them out again on that, right? But for as long as they have to shut up because someone's going to express outrage, or because someone legislated something, you know, against it. What we do create in the end is we limit people's freedom of speech, unduly limit people's freedom of speech, um, by being overly sensitive and making everything like a hate crime, hate speech. Everything becomes a hate speech. Okay, somebody expresses their honest opinion about Islam. Perhaps they don't like Islam. Guess what? No one's going to be able to address it if he's not allowed to say it. Okay, someone expresses their honest opinion about the correlation between black ghettos in the United States and crime. Guess what? The government or society is not going to be able to address the problem of crime in predominantly black neighborhoods if we're not even allowed to admit that there's a lot of crime in black neighborhoods. Okay? Does the crime have anything to do with people being black in black neighborhoods? Probably not. There's a whole historical baggage to that, but guess what? We should be allowed to say it. And this is the problem I have with this modern discourse that wants to gloss over everything, that's afraid to state the obvious because it's going to hurt somebody's feelings. My God, okay? The world will never make any progress. We're taking the world back to the Stone Age. Okay, we might as well not have a language then. We might as well not have a vocabulary. Okay, I mean, you get some. I mean, I had a discussion with a person the other day, and about violence against women, and then they were saying that violence in terms of the subject doesn't only mean physical violence. Okay, saying the wrong things to a woman is also violence. So I was like, if we're going to expand the definitions of words to that which it doesn't mean originally, then it's pointless having a debate. You know? Because if words have to suddenly change because the discourse has changed to expand meanings, you know, arbitrarily, just because it's popular, I mean, what the hell? How are we going to get anywhere? How are we going to be able to have any discussions or any meaningful exchange of ideas? We can't even communicate. We don't even understand words in the same way, because it all depends on which background you come from, which discourse you buy into, which group you belong. It's all bullshit, basically. So what I'm saying, guys, is forget about this liberal discourse. Forget about being politically correct, and start saying things as you see it. And you may be fucked up in the way you see things, okay? But at least we should know that's what you are, so that we can engage you. Because in this human society, we don't have time for bullshit, you know? If people spoke freely their minds and we could freely engage with them, there would be a lot less violence in the world. People would not take drastic action to do terrible things if other people were allowed to engage their violent and crazy ideas were they to speak openly about it. And so, where do we draw the line between propagating violence and hate speech and allowing people to say what they want? Okay, where do we draw that line? That's probably a discussion for another day. But as far as I'm concerned, I believe we know where we stand with people, even if they have crazy ideas, and we allow them to express them freely, and then we engage them freely in those ideas, and we drop this baggage of political correctness, this baggage of being afraid to discriminate against people because we are afraid we might offend one of them. Okay? Generalizations, people, are part of how human beings navigate the world. You don't have time, okay, to decide that a gangster who is a known gangster, is not a murderer or a killer or will harm you. You don't have time to decide that when you are on the street, okay? Out of fear that you are generalizing or that you may hurt his feelings or that he may just be the one to reform or he may just be the one who, is really not going to harm you and then you negatively judged him. You don't have time for that bullshit, okay? Generalization. You saw a guy, he looked like a gangster, he acted like a gangster, he spoke like a gangster. You probably should walk on the other side of the pavement, okay? Because you don't know. You formed an image in your mind of what criminals look like in your area, okay? And you took the necessary precautions. Is that particular person a criminal? Maybe not, okay? Do you have the right to walk on the other side of the road? Yes, you do, because your first job is to protect yourself. Generalization? Yes. Stereotype? Yes. Discrimination? Yes. Is it right to do so? Absolutely. Thank you very much.